Hello, my dear friends, my dear brothers and sisters. This is your Pastor Yadi. We're giving you a new podcast of You Are the Beloved. But before, because this is a new podcast on You Are the Beloved, some people cannot listen to my podcast. So there is a way to do that. I have a Facebook page that is the name. It's a group of Guard Your Heart. It's my own group. And if you use that, you click on the speaker on the play, and when it comes open, you look to the right where you see the word download. You don't click on download. Next to the word download, you see the three dots. You click on the three dots and you find the word embed. You click on embed. It comes open, and then you click on your play and you can listen. So this is a help. Write it down if you listen to this podcast. I also send it in my other podcast of Growing in Grace. So, and if you forget, please go to the one that I just did a couple of minutes ago on Growing in Grace. Because I heard that a lot of people could not listen anymore, and I think it's not okay. So, let's start a new one. You Are the Beloved. A spirituality of waiting. Increasingly in our society, we feel we have less and less influence on the decisions that affect our own existence. And therefore it becomes increasingly important to organize that the largest part of our existence involves waiting in the sense of being acted upon. The life of Jesus tells us that not being in control is part of the human condition. His vocation and ours are fulfilled not just in action, but also in passion, waiting. Imagine how important this message is for us and for people in our world. If it is true that God is Jesus Christ is waiting for our response to divine love, then we can discover a whole new perspective on how to wait in life. We can learn to be obedient people who do not always try to go back to the actions, but recognize the fulfillment of our deepest humanity and passion in waiting. If we can't do this, I am convinced that we will come in touch with the power and the glory of God and our own new life. Our service to others will include our helping them see the glory breaking through, not only there where they are active, but also where they are being acted upon. And so, the spirituality of waiting is not simply our waiting for God. It is also participating in God's own waiting for us, and in that way coming to share in the deepest love, which is God's love. And as we wait, spirituality of waiting, there is always the word patience. The mother of expectations is patience. The French author Simone Weil writes in her notebooks, waiting patiently in expectations is the foundation of the spiritual life. Without patience, our expectations degenerates into wishful thinking. Patience comes from the word patior, which means to suffer. The first thing that Jesus promises is suffering. I tell you, you will be weeping and wailing, and you will be sorrowful. John 16, verse 20. But he calls these birth pains, and so what seems an hindrance becomes a way. What seems an obstacle becomes a door. What seems a misfit becomes a cornerstone. Jesus changes our history from a random series of sad incidents and accidents into a constant opportunity for a change of heart. To wait patiently, therefore, means to allow our weeping and wailing to become the purifying preparation by which we are made, ready to receive the joy that is promised to us. Whereas patience is the mother of expectations, it is expectations itself that brings new joy to our lives. Jesus not only made us look at our pains, but also beyond them. You are sad now, but I shall see you again, and your hearts will be full of joy. A man or woman without hope in the future cannot live creatively in the present. The paradox of expectation, indeed, is that those who believe in tomorrow can better live today, that those who expect joy to come out of sadness can discover the beginnings of a new life in the center of the old, that those who look forward to the returning Lord can discover Him already in their midst. When Jesus presents to us the great mystery of the descending way, it is the way of suffering, but also the way to healing. It is the way of humiliation, but also the way to the resurrection. It is the way of tears, but of tears that turns into tears of joy. It is the way of hiddenness, but also the way that leads to the light that will shine for all people. It is the way of persecution, oppression, martyrdom, and death, but also the way to full disclosure of God's love. In the Gospel of John, Jesus says, "As Moses lifted up the snake in the desert, so must the Son of Man be lifted up." John chapter 3, verses 14 and 15. You see in these words how the descending way of Jesus becomes the ascending way. The lifting up that Jesus speaks of refers both to His being raised up on the cross in total humiliation and to His being raised up from the dead in total glorification. Each one of us has to seek out his or her own descending way of love that calls for much prayer, much patience, and much guidance. It has nothing at all to do with spiritual heroics, dramatically throwing everything overboard to follow Jesus. The descending way is a way that is concealed in each person's heart, but because it is so seldom walked on, it's often overgrown with weeds, and slowly but surely we have to clear the weeds, open the way, and set out on it unafraid. And so every time you make free time for God, you clear up a bit of the descending path, and you see where you can plant your feet on the way to love. Nothing spectacular or sensational. It may be simply a matter of what you say, what you read, to whom you speak, where you go on a free afternoon, or how you regard yourself and other people. What's fascinating is that the first step invariably makes the second one easier. You begin to discover that love begets love. And step by step, you move further, forward on the way to God. Gradually, you shed your misgivings about the way of love. You see that in love there is no room for fear, and you feel yourself drawn to descend deeper and deeper on the way that Jesus walked before you. 1 John 4, verse 18. So, very important to say is that our lives are descended to become like the life of Jesus. The whole purpose of Jesus' ministry is to bring us to the house of his Father. Not only did Jesus come to free us from the bounds of sin and death, he also came to lead us into the intimacy of his divine life. It is difficult for us to imagine what this means. We tend to emphasize the distance between Jesus and ourselves. You see Jesus as the all-knowing and all-power Son of God, who is unreachable for us sinful, broken human beings. But in thinking this way, we forget that Jesus came to give us his own life. He came to lift us up into loving community with the Father. Only when we recognize the radical purpose of Jesus' ministry will we be able to understand the meaning of the spiritual life, and everything that belongs to Jesus is given for us to receive. All that Jesus does, we may also do. You see, it's always up to us, because his work is finished. The cross is broken, and he is lifted up, and is seated at the right hand of the Father. He gave his Holy Spirit to guide us and to lead us in every circumstances of our life. His healing power is still as active as it was of more than 2,000 years ago. Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So it is really up to us. May God bless you and keep you, and may he save you from all harm. This is your Pastor Yeti. And remember, go back if you want to have the info for the next podcast, if you cannot listen to it, and write it down so it is with you, or you memorize it. Once you did it a couple of times, I think it will work out. And God bless. Bye-bye.